Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, we're live and we're talking NBA trade deadline. We're talking about some of the games that happened over the weekend. We're going to talk about the weird Cavaliers, Kings, Bulls trade. We'll talk a little bit about the Paul George extension and a whole lot of other things. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? I know it doesn't change a lot, but there is just a different energy level when we are live. Like you were like, hey, just a reminder, we're live. And the juices were flowing a little bit more. I got a little more energy. So I don't know. It's exciting. I'm glad to be back live. Hopefully the live viewers will enjoy it as well. I know they haven't had a chance to comment here as we've been talking during the episodes for a little bit. So this should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have some interaction and things like that. We're going to do a section later where it's like answering the most common Bucks fans questions about trade value. It'll be interesting. It'll be a good time. So, okay. Before we start and get into everything, we got to shout out a few different things. We're going to shout out Substack, Game Theory, samv.substack.com. So today, Bryce did a breakdown of Darius Acuff that'll go up on Tuesday. Tomorrow, I will have breakdowns on both AJ DeBanza and Darren Peterson from their game over the weekend, where we learned some things. We're not going to fully go in depth and break that down here because we have the Game Theory NBA Draft Show over on Substack, which is about 45 minutes to an hour every week of Bryce and I breaking down NBA draft topics. So we'll go really in depth on the AJ and Darren stuff over there. Go subscribe to the Substack. It is the best place where you can get Game Theory content. It is the best place on the internet, I think, right now for draft content. It is a full set of breakdowns, detail-oriented stuff from Bryce and I, on top of just actual fun breakdowns and conversations with the NBA Draft Show. So go to the Game Theory Substack, gametheorysamv.substack.com. Okay. Next, how was your weekend? Everything good?
It was a good weekend. The little one got sick late last night. He's feeling better here at time of recording, but always when one gets sick, the rest of us start to hold our breath in terms of when it ends up going through the rest of the house. So everybody will be on pins and needles here for the next 24 to 48 hours to see who's next.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's the thing. When you don't have kids, you just don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Hey, sometimes my wife will bring home illnesses, I guess, from work. So I can't really, there's just more danger when you have kids, I feel like. Yes. So what can you do? Okay. So the first thing we're going to do you want to start with Paul George or do you want to start with the weirdo trade that happened last night?
Let's do trades. Let's do trades first.
Okay. So last night, the Cavaliers, the Sacramento Kings, and the Chicago Bulls consummated a 3-team deal where the Cleveland Cavaliers sent DeAndre Hunter to the Sacramento Kings. The Kings sent Keon Ellis and Dennis Schröder to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Chicago Bulls took Dario Saric's money off of the Kings' hands, really off the Cavaliers' hands, in order to save them a boatload of money. We'll talk about that in a second. And then each team sent them a second-round pick. Each team sent the Chicago Bulls a second-round pick. So it's Saric and 2 seconds for the Bulls, basically just for taking Saric's money in. I believe that they also took Emmanuel Miller as well as a 2-way in that deal.
Oh, yeah.
In order to have touching on all of the all teams had something being sent out, basically. So my immediate reaction was this is just awesome from the Cavs. This is an incredible deal by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I'll explain in a minute. But Bryce, what was your immediate reaction?
Yeah, that was definitely a reaction. My immediate reaction was, what are the Kings doing? This doesn't make sense to me from their side of things. Maybe I don't understand the value of Keon Ellis, and I understand the value of Keon Ellis probably is less, and that's of the Kings' own doing. I guess you're less years with DeAndre Hunter compared to Dennis Schroder, but if you were going to get out of the Dennis, like it's not even fully guaranteed in that last year anyway, right? And like you just signed Dennis, and you had to use a second round pick to get off of. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me from a Kings perspective. I know we'll dig into that a little bit more. My next reaction was like, hey, good for you, Chicago. Like, this is the type of stuff you should do. If you can bring somebody in for $5 million and acquire 2 second-round picks, great. Now, don't do anything silly like giving Dario Saric an extension or something like that. But otherwise, good move by the Chicago Bulls. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this with the Cavs in terms of what it means now. And I've also kind of gotten some like crazy hair ideas of what it could allow them to do flexibility wise moving forward.
So I do want to start with the Cavs because I want to start with the winners. I think the Cavs very clearly won this deal. So first and foremost, like this is a financially motivated deal for Cleveland. They are the most expensive team in the NBA this season. Their record does not necessarily indicate that, although obviously they've been a little bit better recently. Doing this deal, they're going to save between $45 and $50 million between salary and luxury tax commitments. I believe it's a $6.9 million savings in terms of salary and about $40 million right now in terms of luxury tax commitments. There can be a little bit of wiggle room there depending on what else they do here moving forward. They're still well into the second apron. They're still into the luxury tax, but the money factor here is like extremely real. And to do that, when realistically, in terms of total dollars, you actually aren't taking on any extra money. Dennis Schröder has like $18.1 million left on his deal guaranteed. Keon Ellis obviously has this minimum deal, $2.3-ish million or so left. DeAndre Hunter has a bunch of money left. He has well over $24 million left on his deal. This makes a lot of sense to me. Even though you're taking on the extra $4.3 million that Dennis Schröder is owed in 2027-28, this sets up an immense amount of flexibility for the Cleveland Cavaliers moving forward. From a basketball side, though, I actually think that this deal is just fine for Cleveland. I have seen some Cavs fans bring up the idea that this gives them some lineup flexibility issues, and I don't think that's wrong. I think that DeAndre Hunter being like a big-bodied 4-man, when realistically now the only other option other than playing the 2 big lineup is probably either Naquan Tomlin at the 4 or Dean Wade at the 4. I get that that is real. But DeAndre Hunter has been terrible this year, and his true shooting percentage 5% below league average. He's averaging a career low since his rookie season, 14 points per game. He doesn't really rebound. I think his defense has always been a little bit more theoretical than what we thought it would be when he was entering the NBA coming out of Virginia, unfortunately. I think this is actually a basketball upgrade. The Alonzo Ball deal did not really work out for them in the summer. I think this deal probably sets up Alonzo Ball trade, to be honest, where they plop him into somebody's cap space for the rest of the year or into like a trade exception or something for the rest of the year. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that, but they needed one more ball handler. Schroeder can bring that. They needed another defender. Honestly, like they needed somebody who can guard. Keon Ellis can bring that and still make shots. I think that this is just like a win across the board for Cleveland. They take on less future money. They do have the $4.3 million commitment in 2027-28, but that's not going to be hard to get rid of. They have, $45 to $50 million in savings here. Like what? This is just like the most obvious win for Cleveland I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I had the same thought in terms of the front line. You and I sat on here for 12 months and pitched Larry Nance Jr., and it just hasn't worked out the way I think either of us thought it would for the Cavs. So it is a big bet on Dean Wade, on, like you mentioned, Naquan Tomlin, but you were playing those guys a little bit anyway. I think what it does is, my initial thought, Sam, was this gives you some protection of, like, what if Darius Garland doesn't get back to the Darius Garland we want? Like, this gives you a little bit of that. You are small in the backcourt in general, but for me, initially, it's like, okay, non-Darius Garland games, we can now start Donovan Mitchell with Keon Ellis, Tyson, and the two bigs, and then we have Schroder to handle the ball off the bench. Maybe Sam Merrill settles into that, off the bench guard wing, off ball guard wing role. And then, yeah, like, the front court is a little bit of a question. And that's why I said, I do wonder if listen, I don't think this sets up a Darius Garland move here in the next 3 days. I don't think that that's what's going to happen. Maybe it could in the offseason. If you love Keon Ellis and decide to extend him, that could be a possibility. Or maybe it's just a smaller move to get you through the rest of the year using Lonzo Ball's contract, or I don't know what the move would be. I tried to think of, like, Bobby Portis is always the name that comes to mind whenever we're looking for this type of player. It doesn't have to be him. I do wonder if they could go out, and I know they can't aggregate. They're limited because of second apron and all of that. I do wonder if there could be another move somehow, some way to shore up the front line. But just in general, I think this is a lot of me just loving Keon Ellis. And Sam, I watched Dennis Schröder be good for the Detroit Pistons last year. And so maybe my view of what Schröder can bring a team is a little bit different.
So here's my question. Is there any way the Pistons just do Dennis Schröder now?
Bring him in from Cleveland now?
Yeah. Is there any way they just take him into their trade exception?
That would be
and be like, hey, like,
first time in NBA history, has to be the first time a player gets traded into his own trade exception. It would have to be.
Yeah, that's like, honestly, that'd be really funny to me if that happened, because they couldn't do it previously because he was restricted, right? Or like there was some sort of restriction there. But now that he's been traded, I believe that they can take him into that exception now. Yeah. So do they just decide, let's run it back?
Pistons fans would not like this. They love Dennis Jenkins, but it is interesting.
I mean, he was really successful there last year. Like, it was clear that they found something with him. I don't know. And look, that would save Cleveland like an obscene amount of money, like a truly obscene amount of money, to where, I don't know, man. Like, you get Keon Ellis, you save honestly over $100 million if you're Cleveland by dumping the $14 million plus all of the luxury tax savings. It's not like a crazy situation to me. This is the one that makes a lot of sense to me. Lonzo Ball and second round picks for Marvin Bagley.
Nice. That's a good name, Sean. Yeah.
$7 million in terms of salary. And then additionally, would also drop them, another, I think, like 30 million in luxury tax. Like, it'd be pretty crazy. That's one that makes a lot of sense to me.
And we've been positive on Marvin Bagley, Sam. Like, you were like, as a backup big, in that rotation, like, sure. Like, that's an interesting name and an interesting move to me.
There are limitations for sure. Like, I don't want to sit here and act like Marvin Bagley is going to be able to like eat playoff minutes or anything, but as a minimum big man, it's hard to do better than that right now on the market. So I don't mind that. Okay. The next piece I want to talk about is the Kings. So the Kings here, I at least want to like give the positive pitch here for the Kings, right?
Okay.
I can understand how this deal happens, even if I disagree with it. They had way too many bodies on the ball. Schroeder had a pretty rough first half of the season. You get a chance to get off of the salary commitments, and then they needed to actually open a roster spot in order to convert Dylan Cardwell. So they had to find somebody, right? They had to find an answer here in order to do like a 2-for-1 deal, right? Or a, just send somebody out deal. And I think they could have figured this out in myriad other ways, but regardless, and we'll talk about the opportunity cost in a second. I think that's like the reason why this happens, right? Let's get like Nick Clifford more on ball reps. Let's see what this looks like, and we'll go from there. I just don't like them. If this was Malik Monk, I would understand it a little bit more.
Sure.
Because if you wanted to open up a lot more flexibility, like if that was your idea here, Malik Monk has like $42 million left on his
Shorter
contract.
deal. Sure.
Right?
I would. I'm a Malik Monk fan. I still wouldn't love it, but I would understand the contract situation and aspect of those names.
Right. Like, I think Malik Monk is good, but if they were just decided we don't want Malik Monk on the roster anymore, we don't want the long-term salary on the books, getting off of that $42 million to me makes a lot of sense, right? Like, I can come up with a justification in my mind.
Sure.
Dennis Schröder only has $18 million after this season. Attaching Keon Ellis to Dennis Schröder doesn't really make that much sense to me, because that deal is not so catastrophic to where you wouldn't be able to get rid of it in the offseason, in my opinion. The Monk one, I think that is seen as like a somewhat negative deal, right? I'm just really interested to kind of see now how the Kings go about their rebuild, because like they took on more future money here with DeAndre Hunter. And one thing that I've kind of been wondering about for rebuilding teams is there value to taking on assets while picking up a bigger contract with 1 year left, knowing that you can essentially roll those over year as you rebuild? Like the Wizards have kind of done this with like their long string of Bradley Beal into Chris Paul, into Jordan Poole, into CJ McCollum, right? They got assets every time they did that because they had an expiring deal and they took on extra money every time up until the McCollum deal, and then took on assets in order to take on the money, right? So a deal like DeAndre Hunter's that's expiring next year, I wonder if they could roll that over for another $25 million a year deal that has more money left on it for a team that wants to increase their flexibility while taking on more assets. I don't think Scott Perry's thinking that way, though, is my problem. I think Scott Perry wants DeAndre Hunter because he's wanted a guy like this for a while, it feels like, since he got the job. Like, we've heard Kuzma rumored with them. We've heard Jonathan Kuminga rumored with them. I think that he thinks DeAndre Hunter is valuable when DeAndre Hunter has not been very good this year. And I don't get that piece of it. And I especially don't get moving a guy in Keon Ellis that I think would have gotten you like real asset value somewhere. I think another team at the end of the deadline would have given them a couple of second round picks for Keon Ellis in a deal where you're actually sending out a pick as well. Like they're sending out a 2029 second round pick. And it's not like a super valuable second round pick, but it is them sending an asset out, when in reality, any deal with Keon, I think, should have been bringing them back something.
I mean, so when you think about it that way, let's just stay there. Let's just say Keon, like if you told me that Trajan Langdon did not send out 2 second round picks for Keon Ellis, I would have been very frustrated with that. So let's just stay with Keon Ellis being worth 2 second round picks. That means Sacramento spent 3 second round picks to get off of Dennis Schröder and take on DeAndre Hunter in this deal. And I think that's where what you brought up makes some sense, but is the opposite of what they did. They didn't bring in future draft capital and part of this is just like my whole view on how they've handled Keon Ellis in legitimately in terms of how they've given him minutes or not given him minutes and playing time, and then how things have now parted ways. I will give you this and give them this. I am always yelling about teams having a contract in the $20 to $25 million range to be a matching salary for a potential move. So from that perspective, if that's what they're looking at DeAndre Hunter as, I can see that in terms of having that on your books, especially if you're about to get rid. And that's where I think for Sacramento, it's what happens over the next 3 days. You know, we talked about that a little bit with Cleveland. Okay, this is a really good move. We like this. It's all positive. What could it mean for the rest of the roster? Whatever they do there and the flexibility this gives them now could make that look even better or whatever. Here for Sacramento, it's the same thing. Maybe they can compile a few moves now in a row where it's like, oh, this makes a little bit more sense because they get rid of everything. It's like, hey, it'd be kind of nice to have DeAndre Hunter on the roster just as a competent basketball player. My argument is Keon Ellis is a competent basketball player that, even though you had to re-sign or extend, is younger and could be part of your future. So I can understand it. It's just the whole process of how you get there makes no sense to me.
I do at least want to talk about Ellis like very quickly. I think he's a little bit more limited than what other people do. Like he is really skinny. Like he works really hard on defense and like scratches and fights and claws. And I agree with you. Like, I think he would have been a perfect fit, particularly with Detroit, right? There just are like more limitations than what people think. Like he is really skinny and can like struggle in dealing with like physical matchups. Like guys can go through him to the rim, right?
Yep.
The other thing is like he can't really do anything other than catch and shoot on the offensive side. Again, catching and shooting, really valuable. Don't want to sit here and argue otherwise, but it is just kind of what he does. And that's really it, right? So there just are limitations. I don't want to sit here and say that he is not valuable because I think he's useful, but I don't think he's like a starter, right? Like I think he's like a seventh or eighth man on a good team. So we're not like, I don't want to sit here and like overstate what Keon Ellis is, but the key on why he was so valuable in the trade market was because every team could bid on him because he had a minimum deal. No matter if you are into the second apron, if you are, you know, well into the tax, he is somebody that literally every single team in the league was able to try and go get because of the cheap salary for this year. Now, I'll be interested to see if the Cavs decide to go out and extend him. I don't know if they will. We'll see. He is eligible for an extension, I think, in like 10 days or so. And the number would be 3 years, 52 million in terms of his maximum. I can't imagine that any team is going to pay Keon Ellis 3 years, 52 million. That would feel aggressive to me. But I do at least want to like talk about Keon because I think that because his trade value was higher than he is as a player because of what the market was, I think people mistake what he is as a player, thinking that like he's maybe a little bit better than he is, even though I do like the player and think he's useful.
I don't think any of that's wrong. I watched, he got actually minutes against Detroit recently, and I came away like, man, the shot making was really good. You know, for his career, let's just go for his career. We talk about sample size all the time, almost 653 point attempts, and he's over 40%. So like he is a guy that can knock down threes, but I did come away from that game like, man, defense wasn't quite as impactful as maybe what you want. As you mentioned, like even going up against a guy like Cade, where size becomes a part of that because Cade is bigger and stronger, he is a little bit limited in his matchups. I think I'm a little bit higher on him, where I think on the right teams, he's the perfect fifth starter, like as that off-ball guard away from, you know, especially a Luka type of point guard. So I don't keep saying the same name here. But I understand if he ends up, you know, like for Cleveland, I assume he ends up being, you know, the seventh man. You know, it's him. I mean, that's what's interesting with Cleveland, not to go back to them, but when fully healthy, which of these guys doesn't play? Because I don't know that you can play a 5-guard wing-ish rotation of the 2 stars, Schroder, Merrill, and Keon Ellis. Like, I don't know that there's enough size and physicality of that quartet to get all of them into the rotation. So it is interesting what they'll do when healthy. I do agree with you though. And that's why, like, I also, you bring up a good point with the contract. Quentin Grimes kind of fell into this for me, where it's like, why does this really good 3-and-D player keep getting traded and keep getting traded and keep getting traded? And I think part of it, as we saw this offseason, was what is he going to want in terms of a contract? I don't know that about Keon, but I do wonder if there's a little bit of like, hey, maybe we have a feel that he's going to end up wanting more from this extension than what we're willing to pay.
Yeah, very possible. And then just for the Kings here in terms of opportunity cost, right? Like the Hunter deal has a year left on bad money. I do wonder if, so the deal I came up with was just like the Clippers take Dennis Schröder and Keon Ellis for Bogdan Bogdanovich's deal, right?
Yes.
Like very obviously. And that's an expiring deal. You know what I mean? So like that opens up more flexibility for the Kings, and you don't have to give up the pick to do it, right? Like I almost guarantee you the Clippers would have been like, yeah, sure. Like we need a second ball handler behind James Harden, and we'll take a flyer on Keon Ellis as like another young, 3-and-D wing that we've had some success with Jordan Miller and Kobe Sanders, right? Like we want to get younger on this team. Like we're good with that. We'll take a shot on that. They just do that, right? Like I'm not crazy.
Neither of those guys' contracts disrupt their books in terms of the summer of 2027. Like, I don't think the Schroder $5 million of non-guarantee or of guarantee on that messes up, or you just get off of him. And maybe, like you said, and we've seen what young wings have done for that team. We did a whole segment on it 2 weeks ago in terms of Kobe Sanders and Jordan Miller. I'm not saying Keon's going to go and do the same thing as those guys, but add that to the mix, add another ball handler. I think that's a no-brainer if it was on the table. And I'm not saying you're saying it was.
Yeah, I don't know if it was, but I find it hard to believe that something like that wouldn't have been on the table from the Clippers. So, and like, that's just like bare minimum. And, there were reports out there that like Minnesota was involved. I think Sam Amick said that Indiana was involved on Keon Ellis for a minute. I think he said the Celtics had some vague interest as well. So like, I think you just have to be patient on this deal. Like I don't know why we're doing this deal on, January 31st as opposed to February 4th or something like that. But maybe that's just me. Finally, the Bulls, they take on Darius Saric. They get 2 second-round picks. Good work from Chicago. I have no notes. This is the kind of deal that the Bulls should be making, and, they did.
Yeah, no, good. Well done, Chicago. We're starting off the deadline correct. We'll see how it plays out the next few days.
Yep, that's right. Okay. Before we move on to the Vit Krejci deal, we're going to shout out some of our sponsors. Shout out to our friends over at Trade Coffee. If you're leveling up anything in the new year, make it the thing you drink every day. Trade sends you roasted to order coffee from top roasters around the U.S. delivered at peak freshness. It's cafe quality coffee that shows up right when you need it, and it makes your entire morning feel more intentional. Trade is the #1 coffee destination in the U.S. Their team of expert baristas and tasters use real coffee knowledge to match you with coffees you'll love. They have spent more than a decade building relationships with over 55 top roasters across the U.S., giving you access to coffees you won't find anywhere else. On top of it, they are grocery store prices for truly elite cups of coffee. Every recommendation is personalized and not algorithmic, so you discover new roasters and coffees perfectly suited to your taste. Take Trade's quick quiz and you'll find your perfect match. If your first bag isn't quite to your liking, they'll replace it for free as part of their first bag guarantee policy. Right now, Trade is offering 50% off a 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/game. That's DRINKTRADE.com/game to get 50% off 1 month. Drinktrade.com/game. We love Trade Coffee over here at the Game Theory Podcast. Another thing we're going to shout out our sponsors over at CashApp. Many of us know the common red flags people should look out for with scams, such as language that doesn't look like a real person wrote it or bad punctuation. But hey, look, people fall for scams for a reason. Some of them are very, very well disguised. But I'm here to tell you, CashApp is going to make it so you're protected against scams. Your security deserves to be a priority, and CashApp treats it that way. With Security Lock, CashApp requires a successful Face ID or biometric authentication to access your account. It's like your money's protected by your own personal bodyguard, even if your phone is lost or stolen. Plus, if you're about to send money to someone new and CashApp notices something looks a bit off, or that you might be falling for a scam, it will send you a warning before the money is sent to confirm that everything looks right. Turn on Security Lock in your CashApp settings today and pay attention to scam warnings to keep your money safe. Learn more at cash.app/security. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use the code SECURE10. That's SECURE10 in their profile at sign up, and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC, discounts and promotions provided by Cash App, a Blanc Incorporated brand. Visit cashapp.com/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Okay, second deal we want to talk about, Vit Krejci going to the Portland Trailblazers for Duop Reith and 2 second-round picks. This is just good business from Portland. I think they could use another shooter. Vit Krejci can definitely shoot it. I do want to talk a little bit about Atlanta's side of this in a second. Again, a deal that I understand logically, but wonder if they could have gone a different direction. Bryce, what was your thought when you saw this deal happen, a couple hours ago?
Vit was a guy that I was really interested to watch this deadline. I think he's a guy that's probably a little bit underrated in terms of the shooter and floor spacer he is. I know the numbers have come down a little bit, but over the last 3 seasons, and 3 seasons ago, 23, 24, he only played 22 games, but he shot over 40% in all of those seasons, including this year. He's 50% on unguarded catch and shoot threes this season. His contract is more than reasonable, including not even being guaranteed after this year. Like it's just, to me, this makes a lot of sense for a team that is currently 30th in the NBA in 3-point percentage to bring in a guy that can really space. And as we got asked on Twitter, listen, he's not going to help the Blazers defense, but I think he is a guy with some length. He really competes. He obviously has real limitations. Like, I'm not going to deny that in terms of, you're talking about Keon Ellis being skinny. Vit is obviously skinny as well. Can do a little bit with the ball in his hands offensively as well. I have this is great for Portland for me. I'm interested to see, okay, from Atlanta perspective, what we're thinking there.
Yeah. So with Vit, like you said, averaging 9 points a game, shooting, 46, 42, 75. And I would argue basically his second full season as a rotation player, realistically. Especially later in the year in Atlanta, he really started to do it last year. Can pass it. I wouldn't say he's a point guard that he can handle, but they would occasionally use him, last year, particularly in some bigger lineups where they asked them to occasionally bring the ball up the court. I do think he's more of a wing who can pass a little bit. I think that he can really shoot it. This is just a really good price point for a guy that is definitely a good 3-point shooting rotation player that has 2 more years left on his deal at $5.5 million. To me, the contract is the real win here. He just does not make a lot of money for the value he provides. And that's what makes him useful for Portland and why it's worth giving up a couple of second-round picks for Portland. For Atlanta, I understand, again, why they looked at this, because it was starting to get hard to get all of their floor spacers on the court, right? They have Vit Krejci, they have Corey Kispert, they have Luke Kennard. All 3 of those guys just have a lot of overlap. It felt like for Kispert that, he was the guy they just acquired. They acquired him for Trae Young. They did that for a reason. I think that they actually like Kispert, is what I've been told. I just wonder, Luke Kennard, I think, genuinely has a case as the non Stephen Curry shooter that is the best in the world right now. He is just so lights out from 3. If you look at his numbers, basically since 2021-22, they are kind of staggering. He's made 46% of his threes on 5 3-point attempts per game over the course of that time. He's made 49% of his 3-point attempts this year. There is a very real case. He is the best non-Stephen Curry 3-point shooter alive, but he is a free agent after this year. He only makes $10 million. I just wonder if keeping Krejci and moving Kennard somewhere else for Portland, or for Atlanta, I'm sorry, might have been the better play here. I think that if I was them, I'd be looking at it from the perspective of, okay, we got Krejci, we've got a couple $1 million here for a good rotation player who can knock down shots. I don't know. That feels like a win to me.
Yeah, and maybe they really like the value with the 2 second-round picks, and I don't know if Luke Kennard goes for 2 second-round picks or not. Obviously, that number is a little bit tougher to get to for teams. I just find it hard to, let's say Luke Kennard's worth 1 second-round pick. Don't you think at some point over the next week they could have got 1 second-round pick for Luke Kennard for a team that maybe misses out on their first, second, and third options or whatever?
Yeah.
And so it's for the difference of 1 second-round pick, I think I'd rather have the guy that I think is gonna that has an easier path to being on my team and helping my team over the next couple of years, as opposed to the one that's most likely going to leave in unrestricted free agency this offseason. So again, I had pinpointed Atlanta, especially after the trade deal, in terms of bringing in Kispert as well, as a team that one of these guys was going to move. Because the other thing is, like, they also have other guys that can shoot the ball, Sam. You know, like CJ McCollum can shoot the ball. Nickeil Alexander-Walker can really shoot the ball. And so it's not like they're just like, you know, searching for floor spacing. And so it seemed like one of these guys would be on the move. I'm kind of with you here that it seemed like maybe for them that Kennard would have made more sense being on the expiring and Vit being on such the good contract that could keep him on your team for a couple more years.
Okay. Next up, let's talk about the Paul George suspension. So Paul George has been suspended for 25 games for taking a banned substance that he has said was due to some mental health struggles that he was having. You know, it was reported by Tim Bontemps as quote unquote an improper medication. We don't have like a ton of details beyond that. This suspension will cost Paul George $11.7 million of his $51.7 million salary. On top of that, which is important for the Philadelphia 76ers deadline here, half of that money, so about $5.6 million, will not count against the Philadelphia 76ers luxury tax for the rest of the year moving forward, which means they're now only like $1.5 to $2 million away from being able to get out of the luxury tax. So they can now just slot Eric Gordon's contract into somebody's space and attach a second round pick, and it's done. Like they're out of the tax now moving forward.
It's literally anybody on the roster now. I'm looking at it, you know, trusting Keith Smith at Spot Track, which I think we all do. It's 1.262. Everybody on the roster other than Charles Bassey, who's on a 10-day, even Janai Broom, which is, you know, recent draft pick, $1.272 million. So it went from what we've talked about, you've brought up for a while now, the Andre Drummond. I mean, you definitely can't trade Kelly Oubre Jr. now, in my opinion, but to any of Janai Broom, Gordon, Lowry, Justin Edwards, if you wanted to. I wouldn't, but you know what I mean? Like the optionality of it now is much different for them to get under the tax.
And Paul George had been playing well for them is the other thing too. And he'll be back. Like it's, you know, it is what it is. Right. But Paul George had been playing like pretty well for them, I thought, basically, since he'd been back from the injury that he missed the first, what was it, like 12 to 15 games of the year. He'd been averaging, you know, 16 points, shooting 43, 39, 88. I think he'd been useful defensively for them for sure. He seemed to really slot into like that third, fourth option role really well. He's absolutely, you know, drastically overpaid for what he is providing, but at the same token, like he's a real loss for Philly here moving forward now. At the deadline, I'm really interested to see if they try and prioritize being able to go get like a hybrid 3-4 that can replace him a little bit and replace some of his value now. And they have the flexibility to do so, like just move Eric Gordon into somebody's space, attach second round pick there, and then just don't take any extra money back in a trade. And I think that opens up some possibilities for them to be able to maybe go find somebody.
The other aspect of this that probably makes it a little tougher than my Janai Broom situation is they do have some two-way guys that are going to need converted. They're kind of running, as many teams across the league are running up against this now. I think they're the most, because actually I learned about a rule today, hand up. They have there's the 1490 rule, where if you don't have 15 roster spots filled, you only have 90 games of these two-way guys or whatever that can be active total, like a combination of more than one. Shout out again, Keith Smith. So they have a couple guys they got to figure out in terms of getting them on the roster and all of that, but definitely still flexibility. To the Paul George thing real quick. Knocks down catch and shoot threes, Sam. He is 43% on those attempts this year. I think in 2 to 3 minute stretches, when Maxi's off the floor or Maxi and Embiid are off the floor, whatever, you can run the offense through him to an extent in short stretches. And what you said at the top, he was taking some tough defensive matchups and was forcing some turnovers and disruption and all of that. I thought Philly had really found their hierarchy of Embiid and Maxi. Then we have VJ. Then there's Paul George. We get Oubre back into the lineup. These guys settle into the second unit, and him not being there for 25 games now is going to disrupt that and cause them to go in a different way to, and not be able to continue to develop that chemistry.
I think that's right. I think that's very much right. I'm really interested to see the direction they go at the deadline. I do wonder if they have figured enough out here,
Sure.
recently to where it should be pretty seamless as long as Joel is there and healthy by the time that Paul George gets back. But we'll see, right? Like Paul George will be back, for the final 10-ish games of the regular season, like something in that ballpark. So a lot of time to be able to figure this out, at least given that they have 15 games they've played together already. As with everything with Philadelphia, it's just so dependent on if Joel Embiid is healthy. I do weirdly think that this opens up a few more options for them at the deadline. I think that they definitely did not want this to happen. Paul George has been really useful for them throughout the course of the last 25 game stretch, basically, and not having him for that stretch coming up is going to be a problem. But look, they've won 3 in a row. Like they've beaten Milwaukee, Sacramento, and New Orleans. Like they've taken care of the business they have to take care of. And we will see what this ends up looking like.
Yep.
Okay. Let's get into takeaways, Bryce.
I have a feeling I know which one you want to start with. Oh, you're going to let me choose?
I'll let you choose. Yeah, go for it.
Well, let's choose the most important one. Let's choose Cooper Flagg versus Kon Wins.
So this was my first.
That seems reasonable, right? Does it seem reasonable to start with this one?
Yeah, Cooper Flagg went for 49 against the Hornets over the weekend on Friday, and then Kon Wins ended up getting the win with the Hornets, also going, I think, for 33, 36, something like that. It was a crazy number. Cooper followed that up with 33 the next game as well, leading to Jason Kidd storming out of the press conference after someone asked him about the criticism he received earlier in the year for playing Cooper Flagg at point guard. Maybe we'll talk about that in a second. One of the wilder press conference moments I've seen this year in the NBA. This was like just a beautiful, cold ass white boy game of basketball. These two dudes just went back and forth repeatedly. It was hilarious. There were multiple times where Kon would go down and drill a 3, and then Cooper would sprint down and just try to size somebody up and take a 3, because he was like, no, I can't let my guy who I'm really good friends with, those two are really, really close from having played together last year at Duke. I can't let my guy get one up on me. I can't let this happen. And he went for 49. It was so sick. It was every single thing that people wanted to see from Cooper Flagg when he was entering the NBA. It was every single thing that we hoped to see from him as a rookie. The downhill attacking ability, the comfort and poise as a ball handler in the middle of the court, the different ways. And I want to give the Maverick staff credit for this. They use so many different avenues to get him the ball out of Horns actions, right? They would have him bring the ball up the court sometimes. They would have him sometimes start in the corner and then come off of screens at the elbows and be able to get to mid-range shots. They would have him start at the elbows sometimes, take a cross screen, and be able to get to different areas and different spots of the court. It was everything that you would want to see from Cooper Flagg if you were trying to project him as a potential number 1 option down the road, which you and I absolutely believe that he's a potential number 1 option down the road. He knocked down shots. He knocked down shots in the mid-range. I think what continues to be the most impressive thing to me about Cooper is his ability to get downhill and play with serious explosiveness and athleticism at the rim, but then have this incredible touch and balance and contact balance, the ability to absorb contact and still get the ball out of his hand softly at the rim from that like floater-ish, like 5 foot in range. On top of the fact that he is just lethal with his left hand and lethal with his offhand now as a finisher. Cooper looks like a star. Like this dude looks like he is going to be one of the 5 best players in the NBA at some point. I think that is where I'm at on him.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game really showed the full range because he knocked down jump shots, especially from the 3-point line. We've seen him knock down mid-range jumpers, but he's still under 40% on the season with those. He's been really good in what you just talked about. I called him the touch shots via synergy. He has 80 of them this year, and he's 50 of 80 on the runners and little hooks. And I think that's what showed up in this game was the variety of his finishing. He had highlight level dunks. He used his left hand. He played through contact. He had a little hook. He went high glass one time, and he was able to show really impressive body control. What I find fascinating with Cooper Flagg is he has been very aggressive attacking with his left hand all year long. And I thought in this game, Charlotte went a little bit to, well, we're going to take that left shoulder away and see if you'll go right. And then maybe try to, I don't know. I assume they weren't trying to let him get all the way downhill, right? Like it makes no sense, but maybe they thought if they force him right into a mid-range jumper going right, maybe that would be his kryptonite or whatever. Well, he got to his right hand and then he just got all the way to the rim. And obviously he's going to be able to finish with his right as well. I will also say that I thought he created quality looks for his teammates much more than the box score numbers show. And, we don't need to get into this right now. We will on Tuesday go check out and catch the Game Theory Draft podcast where we'll talk about AJ Debonsa and Darren Peterson. I felt the same watching AJ Debonsa on Saturday. There's all sorts to talk about with Debonsa, but I think sometimes it's easy to look at the box score and say, oh, I actually saw this on Twitter. Somebody say, well, he didn't do this, this, and this. All he did was score. And I'm like, his teammates have to make shots for him to get the assists. And I thought there was more creation than what the box score numbers showed.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought that he made the right plays, like very, very consistently. I thought that he made the right passing read. I thought that he was like, he took 28 shots or something, 29 shots, but I thought it was like unselfish in the way that he played. He, up until maybe the last possession of the game where, he maybe could have hit PJ Washington, like one pass away for an open 3-point shot to try and win the game. And instead he took like this leaning 3-pointer that was kind of ugly, but dude, you got 49. Like you've set the record for most points in an NBA game by a teenager. You want to take the final shot in the game. I think you've kind of earned that at that point. Like I'm not going to sit here and be like, you don't get that shot at the end.
And Sam, you and I both have been around long enough to know the criticism is going to come from either side, either way. If he turns down that shot, then half of the side is going to be, oh, he's not here for the big moment. He turned it over on the previous possession. He was scared, whatever. Like, I'm just kind of about it. Like when guys, and listen, if he would have passed it, like, great. Like, I'm cool with the decision, but I didn't have any problem with it, especially in a game where he has almost 50. Like, yeah, I'm not going to overly critique that decision.
No, neither am I. Like it was totally reasonable. I thought he's now closing in on 20 points per game this season, nearly 7 rebounds, over 4 assists per game. I mean, Bryce, like if you look at his last, like if you take out his first 15 games of the year and you look at his last 30, 22 points, 7 rebounds, 4.6 assists, 1.2 steals, 0.8 blocks, only 2.2 turnovers. So he's a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. 49.5% from the field, 29% from 3, 80% from the line, getting there 5 times a game. Got to the line 16 times over these 2 games over the weekend as well. Man, oh buddy, this dude is something.
I have a question. I'm scared to ask these in actual media sessions I get to go to, but we'll play here. Coach Vecenie, what changed between those first 15 games and the 30 most recent ones?
This is the thing that like is so funny to me. So yeah, Jason Kidd got real upset. Like, don't tell the newspapers I'm mad. I'm not mad, upset. Because someone at a press conference asked him about playing Cooper at point guard and like the criticism he got. And I just want to read Jason Kidd's quote. Criticism, that's your opinion. You guys write that BS. That's not, I've done this. I've played this game. I've played it. I know what the F I'm doing. I don't give a F what you guys write because you guys have never played the game. I build players, so I know what the F I'm doing. So if I take criticism, it only makes me better because if I wasn't doing it right, you guys wouldn't be poking holes in what I've done. And then he walked out. Like, here's the issue, Jason. The problem, I think Cooper would have figured this out because we literally have a track record of Cooper taking his first 15 games or so, 10 games of the year, like in college, to figure it out. And then he figures it out. You know what I mean? And everything would have been great. Here's the problem with this. Every number that you look at with Cooper Flagg says he plays better with one of Brandon Williams or Ryan Nembhard, particularly Ryan Nembhard, on the court. It's not that you can't run Cooper initiating actions. You can run him initiating actions. It's that when you don't have a point guard out there next to him, it's that you lose all of the versatility that he provides you in the sets that you're running. Because again, how did we open this conversation? We opened it talking about how they used him. They love to live out of horn sets, right? They used him in so many different ways coming out of horn sets, like using him in the corner to come up and take a couple of screens, down screens to get some space. They used him at the elbows, like he sets a cross screen, then comes up to the elbow and catches, and then just like plays mid-post game, right? When you don't play him with a point guard, you lose the flexibility and versatility within the run of the flow of the game to be able to do those things, right? So if I have no problem with Cooper like initiating sets. That was never my argument against him playing point guard. It's that you didn't play him in a way that allows you to maximize his versatility, and you played him with zero spacing. You played him next to like a real center in one of Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively, Anthony Davis at the 4, and PJ Washington at the 3. There's like 0.5 real shooters out there because PJ Washington is not having a great shooting year this year, right? And he's very up and down. It was totally like a spacing issue for Cooper. Every single time that he tried to drive, every single time that he tried to get into the areas that he's having more success getting into now, he had no ability to do so because teams would just collapse in on him. We saw the same thing with Cade Cunningham when he was young. Yeah. It was the same exact situation. And kudos to Jason Kidd. They figured it out. Like, play him more with Klay Thompson. Play him more with Ryan Nembhard and Brandon Williams. Play him more with Max Christie, right? Like, it's totally fine that you were able to adjust this on the fly, but don't sit here and act like playing the teenager at point guard with lineups that were disadvantageous to him was the right call for Cooper Flagg's development. Like, that seems silly to me.
And the last thing I'll put on this as well is like, I will listen to the I played this game card on some things. Like, I've never been in an NBA locker room, Sam. I don't know what those dynamics are. I've never seen an NBA practice. I have no idea what goes into that, or a film session or anything. So I think at times these, whether it's a coach, media, whatever, I will hear out the I played the game, I was a part of this, you weren't, I understand it, you don't, because I think in some contexts it's true. I don't know that this is one of those. Like, this isn't one where I'm like, I don't think alienating every person who hasn't played the game at that level, I don't think is I don't think this is the right context to do that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of silly, to be honest. Okay. That was great, but we should talk about Kon.
I was gonna say, we're not moving on yet. Like, I'm all about getting to the Brooklyn Nets that we're going to talk about next, but I think Kon Knippel deserves a little bit of love first.
Oh, Kon absolutely deserves love. I was planning on doing kind of 2 segments on the Hornets as like a bit of a wraparound, and because of the trades that happened, we're only doing 2 takeaways, so I ended up kind of removing that from the equation. But Kon Knippel was fantastic in this game. I thought that he was just so tremendous at getting to his spots. He looked confident hunting his 3-pointer, even in a way that like went above and beyond what we've seen this year. Like, he took 12 threes in that game. I think that was tied for the most that he's taken in a game this year. Maybe he's taken like 13 in one game, but he was hunting them, and he drilled 8 of them and dropped 34 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Again, another guy that, you know, his teammates just ended up kind of losing a couple of assists for him here or there with just some smart, quick decisions. Man, I love everything that Kon's about. I love the decision making. I think LaMelo is doing way more of driving the Hornets like positive play over the course of the last little run here than what people think, and probably even more than Kon. But I think a lot of like Kon's unselfishness and spacing and quick decision making embodies a lot of what has made Charlotte really successful over the course of this run, and what has made them a team that like I probably would not want to play in the playoffs based on how they're playing right now. Like they're dangerous to a team that would play them in the playoffs. Like they're 22-28 right now. They have won their last, I believe, 5 games, 6 games, something like that. They've won their last 6 games. They have won 7 of 8, and I think like 9 of 10 or 9 of 11, maybe something like that. They're absolutely on fire. They are a team that just beat San Antonio, by the way, like a really good team. So they're not just beating up on the bad teams either. They demolished Philadelphia, although that Philadelphia game I think didn't have really anybody other than Maxey. And then they absolutely beat the brakes off of Orlando. They beat Denver in a game where Denver again didn't have like a ton of talent on the court, but they also beat the Lakers recently as well in a game where both Luka and LeBron played. So it's not just them beating up on bad opponents. They're doing a really good job. And again, I think LaMelo is doing like a real significant portion of driving the positive play. Like LaMelo is playing about as well as I've seen him play since he's been in the NBA. His ability to get them creative opportunities, to get them out in transition and play the aggressive style of basketball that Charles Lee really wants them to play. Hunting threes, finding pull-up threes, finding catch-and-shoot threes off of kickouts, on top of being able to get to the rim pretty consistently as well. Yeah, I absolutely love what I've seen from LaMelo. But again, I do think that like Kon's level of unselfishness and the way that he makes quick decisions, like that 0.5 decision making that we talk about, I think it embodies a lot of what Charlotte has been successful doing this year. And that's why I think people are like LaMelo is still their best player on the team, to be clear. It's just like, I think Kon is also making a lot of really high level contributions in a way that is helping them win games.
I mean, they're 7th in offensive rating for the entire year. We don't even have to do the caveats anymore. And I'm sure, like, I assume they probably ended up number 1 in the month of January in offensive rating or whatever. But when you don't have to do those caveats anymore, that's when you know you're a legit team, like a team that, one, I think is fun to watch. And I would tell people to watch and go check them out on League Pass or whatever. And the other thing is, Sam, they're 19th in defensive rating for the season. It's not like, it's not perfect, but it's not like you're not bottom 10.
So Bryce, I can give you the exact numbers. They were first in offensive rating in the month of January. They were also 5th in defensive rating.
There you go.
In the month of January.
So some of these overall numbers are driven by a very, productive month of January, but we'll see. I'm excited about this team. We just talked about them kind of in totality recently. I'm excited to see I hope they end up in the play-in. I think they'll be a lot of fun to watch if they do. Back to Kon real quick. The shot prep and the way he gets his lower body ready, the way he's on balance into these attempts off all sorts of movements is so impressive. He has the shot fake, one dribble. He has all of those different things. You already talked about all of that. The one thing I also want to bring up, and we said this in the pre-draft process, I think you were a little higher on it than me, was his ceiling would be determined by what he could do off the bounce. And in this game, he showed the ability to duck his shoulder and turn the corner. He showed his ability to split ball screen coverages. He does a great job throwing the ball out to navigate defenders, and then he aggressively goes and gets it. And he's a strong dude. So if he does get an advantage, he's able to hold it because of that. And then just some quick numbers here. He's 62% at the rim. He is 17 of 28 on runners floaters. He is 46% on 2-point dribble jumpers, along with all of the 3-point shooting we've been talking. He's not just a 3-point shooter, Sam. If you close out hard, he has that ability to make you pay with the pull-up jumper, with the floater, maybe get all the way to the rim. And definitely, if you help, he's going to kick and spray it out to whoever's open.
I'm so glad you brought up the shot prep. It stands out to me every time. Like his feet are in perfect position to shoot the ball every single time. It does not matter where he is on the court. He plays so well and so balanced off of 2 feet that it is just truly elite level stuff to me. I love watching him play. The last guy I do want to bring up, the big thing that I wanted to talk about was actually the center position and why I was going to talk about Charlotte. And we'll talk about that maybe next week when we do takeaways. But Moussa Diabate has been great. Since he entered the starting lineup, it's been a huge differentiator for them. His rebounding ability, he's very active on defense. He's a real rim protector on the interior. And he does have like some like he's actually quite mobile. It's just like, you know, sometimes it's over aggression and trying to, you know, rein that in a little bit, but extremely mobile, very good at the rim because of his length, elite level rebounder, like Chase's rebounds, you know, it's such an elite level. But yeah, I didn't want to get out of here before we talked about Moussa, because I think Moussa has been fantastic. We'll talk about him more actually next week, though, I would say.
Yeah. No, I agree. I've liked the Moussa minutes, and yeah, I'll save my thoughts because I was excited to talk about that topic and it needs its due diligence.
Okay, Bryce, you are up with your first takeaway.
Let's go talk about the Brooklyn Nets. And I only bring up the Brooklyn Nets. Listen, I went through the standings the other day, Sam, and I was just like, who have we not talked about recently? Who, you know, I don't want us to be that podcast that only talks about the Knicks. Only, you know, we're still going to get accused of it, even though I don't feel like we do it. Like, we've been talking about the Hornets a lot. We were talking about the Blazers last year. Huh?
Thanks,
yeah.
Drew.
Well, yeah. I was even thinking, like, you know, for the flag that flies behind me, we don't talk about that team as much as what we probably could, considering they're the number 1 team in the East right now. So I think we do a pretty good job of covering the entire NBA and all of that. But I don't know that we've talked about the Nets kind of in totality, maybe some of the rookies, because we always just talk about Michael Porter Jr. and the trade possibilities, right? If we mention Terrence Mann, it's, hey, maybe he could get traded to the Lakers, or we probably mentioned Haywood Highsmith more than we've mentioned Nick Claxton or, you know, Day'Ron Sharpe or Noah Clowney or whatever. So I guess I just wanted to, we don't spend a lot of time on it, but just check in. What have we seen from the rookies? Have any of them impressed us? What have we thought about Jordy and what he's, because here's the thing, Sam, this is a team that could be a player at the deadline over the next few days, and definitely a player this offseason with a whole bunch of cap space.
Yeah, like I would be interested to see if they try and get in the Giannis sweepstakes, just because they have so many first-round picks. Like, yeah, they really could if they wanted to. They could give up everything that they have if they wanted to get Giannis. But yeah, I mean, I think we should start with Jaeger, just because Jaeger's development throughout the course of the year has been quite impressive. You know, started as just like a pure perimeter player, like could only shoot threes. Like it felt like early in the season, he couldn't even like really get past like 1 to 2 steps of dribbling the basketball. I think slowly but surely throughout the course of the year, he's gotten better in terms of being able to use the threat of his shot as the shot has begun to get more respect from teams. It using the threat of the shot to be able to score. I don't think he's a point guard. Like that is my biggest takeaway from what we've seen so far. I think people try to like pigeonhole him as a bit of a point guard because that's what he played at BYU, but he's a wing in the NBA is where I'm at. The good news though, is he's drilling 39% from 3.
Yeah.
And it kind of like it works right now. I think the fact that he is actually able to knock down shots makes him useful. It's at 40% now after the game he had against Utah. I'm sorry. He's hitting 40% of his 6 threes a game. It is pretty wild to me on some level that, you know, he has made as many threes this year as he has taken 2-point attempts. that's still like one of the craziest stats in the NBA to me, that I've seen for a guy that like has semi reasonable usage right now. Doesn't really get to the line, isn't going to like drive a ton of paint touches. And I actually think the defense has gotten like a little bit worse as the year has gone on. Honestly, like he continues to know where he's supposed to be, but I wonder if like the wear and tear of the season is kind of starting to catch up on him game after game after game. Rookies hit a wall. It happens, right? But the offense is growing and expanding in a way that I would like to see expand if you consider him a wing like I do now. He continues to utilize that threat of his shot really well and be able to get his team the ball out of kickouts in ways that make for efficient offense.
Yeah, this was the worry, like, because, and this is why I had it lower on my board was, okay, if I don't think he's a true point guard, because I'm not sure he can actually create for his team. And listen, he's going to be able to run a ball screen, but can he really create as an on-ball guy? Well, then if you put him off the ball, is he going to knock down shots at a high enough level? I did believe he could attack a closeout if he got the closeout. And to your point, he has shown it over and over throughout this season that he's able to do that. So now it's the rest of his game. I think for me, where I'm at with him now is like, how does he fill out the frame? He looks young out there, right? And he is young, he's 19 years old. So this isn't a knock on him. I think it's actually a positive thing that, listen, some 19-year-olds don't look like 19-year-olds. Jalen Duren looked like a grown bleep man whenever he was 19 and entered the NBA. Yegor doesn't. But if he starts to develop that, I think it's going to help some of the offensive aspect. And I do think it'll help some of the defensive aspect because he just gets knocked off his line right now. Like at the cutoff point, he will just get bumped back whenever an offensive player puts their shoulder into it or whatever. He just can't hold the line. He's not strong enough.
It's funny. Like the guy that it reminds me of a lot of right now, and this guy's way older and he's better, is the guy we talked about earlier. Like it's somewhat similar to Vit Krejci. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mean that as a slight. Like, we spent a lot of time talking about the fact that we really like Vit as a player, but Jaeger still has a lot of time to get better and to grow and to get stronger and to, improve that physicality, hopefully in a way. But, he's kind of like somewhere between, when I watch him, it feels like this weird blend of like between Vit in between like, almost like Kon or Clay, it feels like, right? Like he's nowhere near, I don't think he's that level shooter that those guys are, but I do think he's a real shooter in the same way that like Vit is, right? And he passes and makes plays and make decisions. And yeah, he's just a really interesting player that I'm still trying to wrap my full head around. And the other rookies, have been interesting. Like I actually, when you told me we wanted to do this, I watched the Utah game as well. Nolan Traore like really can't get anywhere yet on the court, but he does at least know what decisions to make very consistently. He passes well. I thought the defensive effort against Utah's guards was pretty good. I really enjoyed Danny Wolf in that game. Like just having somebody who can make plays at that size is really, really valuable to me. Look, he's averaging 8 points and 4 rebounds and 2 assists, and the shooting percentages are not there yet. He's a 6'11" guy shooting under 40% from 3 because he struggles to finish at the rim. But, there's just a lot. He's a very multi-skilled, talented big man. I think that if you made me pick out of the rookies, he would probably be the second one that I would bet on still below Jaeger. Can we talk Day'Ron Sharpe real quick?
Yeah, we should.
Day'Ron Sharpe's awesome. Like just point blank, Day'Ron Sharpe is a really good basketball player. I would be trying to steal him from Brooklyn if I was another team.
Well, the thing is, he's on a sick contract too, right? Like $6 million this year, $6 million next year, club option. Like he's on a really good deal. Here's what I would encourage people. One, if you just watch the Nets, you will see what he's able to do, which he gets pegged as just like this bruiser that rebounds, and he does do those things. Day'Ron Sharpe can pass, and Brooklyn, and he can move. If you watch a Brooklyn Nets offense and defensive scheme, your bigs have to be able to play out top, operate DHOs, get actions, those type of things. And defensively, I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like they have to hard hedge as much as any team in the league. Like those bigs are not playing in drop coverage very much. So you're having to hard hedge and then you're having to recover out. The dude can get around and move and play hard. Here's what I would encourage people to do. If you want to see what Day'Ron Sharpe is, just go play around with some per 100 possession stuff on NBA.com. And I'm not saying he's those guys, but you will come away surprised with the names that are involved if you do rebounds, assists, points, rebounds, assists, steals, and those type of things.
Yeah, Day'Ron Sharpe this year has played 686 minutes in medium to high leverage situations. The Nets have a negative 3.5 net rating in those situations. Like for a team that is not very good, right? That's actually pretty good mark. When he's off the court, they have a negative 8.9 net rating in those situations. Like he is really elevating their team when he is on the court. If you look at his last 15 games, he's averaging 10 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.3 steals, shooting 60% from the field, getting to the line 3 times in just 22 minutes a night. I think he's good. Like if I was the Celtics, for instance,
yes, this is the guy.
Yeah, like I would be trying to go get him. Because if I could pair him and Nimi Keita, I'd have like a bit of flexibility to play kind of different situations. And Sharpe feels like a, Celtic-y kind of guy to me. He's also like occasionally stepping out and taking threes. And I wonder if like their scheme could really empower him. I don't think he's ready to do this, but like maybe in the next couple of years that could happen.
I've wondered that if he got on the right team that just like gave him the freedom to do it, where the 3-point shooting could go. Cause every once in a while you watch and he takes one. I think he hit one the other night out of the corner that he went from the dunker spot to the corner and it was like very smooth and he just knocked it down. I was like, okay, well that's interesting.
The last thing I'll say here on the Nets before we move on, and maybe we can talk just briefly about their deadline, but like, I think Jordi Fernandez is outstanding.
Yeah.
I think that his offensive scheme, I think the way that they play drive and kick basketball to create open threes, I think the way that they utilize the shot creators that they have is really, really smart. He gets his guys in the right spots that work for them very consistently. He gets his team, his shot creator separation, particularly when Sharpe's on the court, because Sharpe is a good screener as well. Like, I think Fernandez is so good on offense, and defensively, I think he's even better. Like this team should be nowhere near competent on defense. They shouldn't be. And look, they're 26th in defensive rating this year. I don't want to sit here and overstate it, but like throughout the month of December, they were quite good. This month it fell off of a cliff in January. It happens, right? But for them to even have like 1 month where it was really high level defensively, given how many rookies they're playing, given how many guys kind of come in and out of the lineup, I think is really impressive and is deserving of a bit of credit as well.
Yep. I was talking to someone about this the other day. I just said, like he's widely considered for a team that is tanking to be a really good coach, and not very often do coaches who are coaching these type of teams kind of get recognized for, like almost doing too good of a job. Like, man, how do we bench Jordi because he's coaching too well and he's coaching us to too many wins? I think he does a really good job. I'm excited to see him, whether it's as soon as next year or whenever it is. I'm excited to see him with a really well-rounded, makes sense, a little bit more veteran experience type of roster.
Okay. So let's go to your next takeaway and then we'll do my thing at the end.
Perfect. I want to give Dillon Brooks some love here because I just think he's been awesome. And listen, I kind of lead I shouldn't say that. That's giving myself way too much credit. I often try to point to Devin Booker and what he is to the Phoenix Suns and making sure that like some people are like, is he an all-star? And I was like, I think he's an all NBA player. But I do, and Colin Gillespie gets love and all of that. I think whenever I sent the text, I said like Dillon Brooks has changed the culture in Phoenix or whatever. That may be strong. I don't know. I do know that team plays hard as heck. I watched them play Detroit the other night, and not many teams like Punk and like physical the Detroit Pistons, and they did. But what stood out to me more than anything, Sam, is that dude has ultimate confidence. And like him or hate him, like whatever, like your opinion as a fan. I'm not here to tell people how to fan, but I did appreciate just the way he went about his business. He made a bunch of shots. He let people know about it. And to me, Sam, somebody sitting in Kansas, it looks like that permeates to the rest of the roster. And to me, that there is something to that. If you are the type of player that you instill confidence in your teammates around you, especially grown men, that's not easy to do. And to me, it looked like he does.
Yeah, I agree. He, for whatever reason, when he gets places, it seems like it wears, right? Like it seems like it,
yeah, sure.
It wears after a little while, but when he gets there, things change, right? Like in Memphis, as he grew up there and continued to take on like a bit more of a loud role, he, helped them grow and mature, and then it did eventually wear out. In Houston, with those young guys, like he really helped them grow and mature, and then, the welcome got worn out a little bit. In Phoenix, he's doing the same thing. And I think it's an immense credit to him that this is the situation we're in. Dillon is averaging 21 points a game, 3.6 rebounds, 1.8 assists. He's averaging, shooting 45% from the field, 35% from three, 86% from the line, but they need somebody who takes those bad shots, right? Like they actually do genuinely need somebody who takes difficult shots from time to time. Devin Booker, like same deal, right? Like they just don't have a lot of guys at the point guard position or at the center position who can create shots. So those guys are tasked so aggressively with being responsible for getting late shot clock situations or, any sort of situation realistically. So I absolutely love what Dillon Brooks has done this year. This is a team that, in the month of January, second in defensive rating, right? And over the course of the full season, they're sixth, but they're getting better and better every single month on defense. This team, I know that Matt Ishbia went on, I think it was Zach Lowe's podcast, and talked and, said that he wants to build a defense and build a team in the vision of those, Michigan State teams that he played under with Tom Izzo, right? And I actually don't know if there are many players in the NBA that I can think of that embody that more than Dillon Brooks, right? And his physicality, his attitude, like he does just give them an attitude in a way that they need. And we'll see how long it lasts. We'll see, if he wears out his welcome in Phoenix as well. I actually kind of wonder if they're building this kind of team, right? If maybe he won't wear out the welcome, like this might be his home. If they're going to be like, no, like we're going to empower you to be you, it might be real where it just ends up being okay. And this might be his thing. So yeah, I mean, I do respect what Dillon brings in the same way that I respect what Draymond Green brings. I mean, to play in the NBA, you have to have unwavering, unflinching confidence in yourself. If you lose that, it becomes really hard to deal with what you're facing in the NBA from a game-to-game perspective.
And we talk all the time about, the energy that guys have to expend, right? Like we talk about Tyrese Maxey and the 40 minutes a game or lead initiators and then what they do. You just, listen, when Devin Booker's there, obviously he's the second option, but he's taking 17 field goal attempts a game. All the numbers you brought up, Sam. This team is sixth in defensive rating. And I think we both, I don't remember exactly how it shook out, but had him on second team all defense or right there. I know you had him on all defense for sure. I think I ended up with him or right. So like we're talking about a guy who's been at the very worst, a top 15 defender. And I think for most people, probably a top defender in the NBA this season. And then taking the offensive usage. I just wanted to read these numbers real quick. He's almost 50% on 200 2-point dribble jumpers, and he's 40% on unguarded catch and shoot threes. Like the dude is just, he's making shots. And I think watching it firsthand, obviously I've watched plenty of Suns games, but watching him do it to the Detroit Pistons without Devin Booker, it just really kind of clicked for me. And watching how listen, maybe it's a team full of confident dudes that have that attitude and it's just, it all builds off of each other. I just kind of got the feel that Dillon is in the center of it, and it just permeates to the rest of those guys, and they all take it and run with it.
Okay. So while we're here, we have all-star selections, Bryce.
There we go.
All right. I'm going to read them off for you. Reserves in the East.
Okay.
Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Johnson, Karl Anthony Towns, Pascal Siakam, Norman Powell, Scotty Barnes, Jalen Duren.
Okay.
Any immediate thoughts?
Okay, I gotta look at standings real quick, because I feel like there was a couple names. Okay, so that means no Brandon Ingram, right?
No Ingram, correct.
So no Orlando Magic made it on.
Correct.
And Siakam did.
Siakam made it, correct. Yes.
So there's not a quote unquote snub. Like, is Brandon Ingram the best player that didn't? The guy, Bam, Miami, not like Norm over Bam, and Bam not at all. Maybe is probably conversation right now.
I do struggle with Powell over Bam. I think it's pretty clear that Bam is their best player. Like when you watch them, like I understand that Bam can be a bit inefficient here and there offensively, but I don't know, man. He's really good on defense. Like defense matters for this. I think Karl Anthony Towns is like not quite all NBA, but like I think probably should be an all-star at the end of the day. Siakam has been great this year. Like he is in no way at fault for anything that's happening in Indiana. Like Pascal, totally innocent. 24 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. He's been every bit as efficient as he's normally been. I think he makes total sense. I would guess that Porter Jr. is probably the biggest snub, right?
Okay, so what I would say there, though, listen, I would still hear it out. I assume what people will say is like Siakam over Porter Jr. And I guess my thing would be, how much different is the offensive load, and Siakam's just better defensively than Michael Porter Jr. And so I don't have a problem with Siakam over Porter Jr. I suppose I would hear out some other Porter Jr. versus other names, though.
Yeah, like again, I would probably have Michael Porter Jr. over Norm Powell. Look, I love Norm Powell. I think Norm Powell is like one of the great stories of the NBA in terms of development. Like when he got to the NBA, he was all athlete, like mid-range game, not really much of a three-point shooter early on in his career, and certainly not at UCLA. And he has developed into like an absolutely lethal scorer from all 3 levels. He is really, really effective as a scorer. I do struggle a little bit with Powell as an all-star personally, but
it's going to be perfect because now the Detroit Pistons are going to have 3 all-stars in 2025-2026 NBA season when they trade for Norm Powell.
I don't know if they're going to get Norm Powell. We'll see.
I know.
But look, Jalen Johnson, I think absolutely extremely deserving. Scotty Barnes, extremely deserving. Donovan Mitchell, the most deserving out of all of these 100%. Guys.
Yeah.
So, that's Jalen Duren should definitely be there. I think that's like 4. They're automatic for me. I do think Towns and Siakam are well deserving at the very least. And then probably Porter would be my answer. I think, if we're looking at this, over Powell, I think that would be my thing, right? Like trying to think of anybody else that really truly stands out. There's just no chance that Derek White was ever going to make this team, but like Derek White, is awesome at basketball. Yeah. And if you look at any advanced metric, is having an amazing season. I think that's really it. I mean, like, could you make a case for either LaMelo or Kon?
So I thought about
happened too late.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought about those guys as well. I mean, just when you talk about winning, they're what, 8.5 games up on the Nets and the Pacers. So I think there's a conversation. Like I'll hear it out. I don't think I'm so adamant about very many of these that I'm gonna throw a fit if someone's like, hey, listen, I've questioned LaMelo a lot on this podcast. I think he's been awesome this year. And if he is able to continue this and stay healthy, hand up, I'll be wrong and I'll love it because I enjoy watching him play when he plays like this. So I think he's played a stretch of basketball that's been very interesting. So
yeah, I think I agree. Again, like I would take LaMelo over Powell for sure. Like that wouldn't even be a real question to me. But yeah, look, it is what it is. Western Conference All-Star reserves: Anthony Edwards, Jamal Murray, Chet Holmgren, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Denny Avdia, and LeBron James. Okay, so the first thing I want to call out here is that there are 9.
So I was going to ask, what's there's 9 international?
9 internationals, which means I believe that they will name one more American in addition to this. So they should get one more.
Okay.
Someone in the comments is asking about Embiid as an all-star. I just think he didn't play enough games is the reality. He missed way too many games early in the season. Joel would be fine if you want to be an all-star, but yeah, like I think it's just very difficult to have an all-star that missed as many games as he did early on. Like he still only played 28 games. That feels tricky. The West, I think there is a glaring, this is absolutely bonkers that this person is not here snub. And I'm sure it came at the expense of LeBron.
So like my immediate names that I think at least would be in converse. So I think Edwards 100%, Murray 100%, Chet, Durant, Booker. Okay, so I think, and also some of these guys are going to be injured, so we're going to have others, but just staying simplified here. So up against LeBron, I could name Şengün, Randall, either of the Clipper guys.
Yeah, to me, like the glaring, this is incredibly obvious one is Kawhi. Kawhi is averaging 28, 6 and 4, shooting 50, 39, 94. Like he's 0.5 off of 3-point percentage and 0.4 off of field goal percentage from having a 28 point per game, 50, 40, 90 season. And I get that he's only played 34 games, but like, we're looking at 1,100 minutes this season versus Joel, who is at 850 minutes this season. So like a pretty big difference. Kawhi, to not have Kawhi on this team is absolutely ludicrous to me.
I mean, sorry, I just saw the tweet. So it seems like that's the one that everybody's blowing up about.
Is it?
I don't know.
Yeah. I have not looked at like the internet. I'm like literally just like kind of going here off of just like, okay, let's think about this.
StatMuse tweeted Kawhi's numbers and Bobby Marks retweeted it. I have Bobby Marks as one of the people that I have, whatever. So I get notifications, like you, Shams, whatever. So I just assume that this is the major conversation if a account like Bobby Marks is retweeting something like that. So
yeah, Kawhi has been like when he's played this year has been very clearly like one of the 6 or 7 best players in the league. And here's the other thing. Who's hosting the All-Star game this year, Bryce?
No, that's what I feel like that's got to all be part of the equation, I guess.
I wonder, like, is this some weird, like, aspiration thing where, like, maybe I don't know. I can get into like some weird conspiracy theories on Kawhi not being there. I think he has been one of the 6 or 7 best players in the league when he's been on the court this year. He has been completely bonkers when he's played.
Yes. I'm trying to like not be rude or anything. Like part of me wants to be like, okay, if we're going to put LeBron in, he better go there and ball. Like he better go play. Like be serious. But I shouldn't say that because I don't know if anybody else is going to take it serious anyway. So that's probably not fair.
Yeah. And look, like LeBron, again, has played 992 minutes this year. He's played 30 games. So he's had I get that it's LeBron. I don't want to, sit here and say it's not cool to have LeBron in the All-Star game. It is. Just give him like a commissioner spot.
Correct.
Like if you want LeBron at the All-Star game, just give him a commissioner spot, right? Like the commissioner has the ability, like he did with Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade in their last years, to be able to put somebody in the All-Star game. Just do that, right? If you want that, I'm all for it. But
here's the funny thing, Sam. Is Kawhi the name? Does Kawhi get it? We just said that an American player needs names.
Yeah, I would hope that Kawhi gets named. Like that is the incredibly obvious, I have no idea what we're doing here thing. I would hope you should have named Kawhi here and then brought LeBron in as the commissioner's pick. To me.
I agree.
Chet, totally fine with it. I think that's reasonable. He had a great year, or is having a great year. Kevin Durant absolutely makes sense. Anthony Edwards, Jamal Murray. I would say the no-brainers right now are Anthony Edwards, Jamal Murray, and Kevin Durant. I think you could have made a case for Chet either way. I'm happy that Chet is there. I think it's well-deserved. He is averaging 18, 9, and 2, and is one of the best defensive players in the league, and is efficient, and is a huge reason for Oklahoma City's success, especially early in the season without Jalen Williams, as they started to, really roll even without Jalen. Booker, I think, is well deserving. I think some people will look at the shooting numbers and be like, oh, he's only shooting this percentage. It is what it is. He's still averaging 25, 4, and 6, and he is asked to take so many hard shots for that Phoenix team because everybody has to be able to shoot. I mean, here's the other thing that I would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to have seen them just name Şengün into the LeBron spot and then make them go with 2 additional replacements.
So
and then
I'm
you can
seeing
bring in
that
somebody else.
Did you count Cat as a world player?
I did not, but
so I'm seeing with Cat as a US player that it's broke evenly.
If Cat is a US player, it's broken evenly.
Giannis, Avdia, Doncic, Shea, Jokic, Murray, Siakam, Vic.
Who am I missing?
Durant, Edwards, Chet, LeBron. Yeah.
So Jokic, Shea, Wemby, Doncic, Denny, Murray, Siakam, Cat, Giannis. So that's 9.
That's what I said. If you're counting Cat as a world. So what I'm saying is, I don't know what Cat will want to do or what. I'm just saying, like, you could put Cat on one of the USA teams and be broken
even. I see what you're saying.
I don't know. I'm just saying that you could, if Cat wanted to, was okay. Whatever goes into that decision, you would still have some injury replacements, right? Because like Giannis isn't going to play. Booker's out right now. Curry left the game the other night. I haven't checked up on what that status is, but like you're going to have some injury replacements anyway. I'm just saying that like Cat could swing either direction. It seems like, unless he's adamant about one way or the other.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. We'll see where this goes. And look, like, people will ask like, why is it important who is an all-star and everything? It kind of just is for the historical record. Like, I understand that the game sucks and everything like that. They're trying to elevate the game this year, but like, guys care about being named all-stars. It is important when we go back and look at like who had the best years halfway through the year, 3/4 of the way through the year. I do think it is relevant. It also matters for the player participation policy league-wide now, because if you get named an all-star, you are not really allowed to sit games if you're not unhealthy, right? So some of these things do matter. Some of these things definitely do matter. Okay.
For sure.
The last point that I wanted to talk about, and please, like, we're live here. I would be happy to answer these questions as well. I have a few to start, but I am very happy to kind of continue with this. So I see a lot of Bucks fans kind of question things about what's happening, right? With the Giannis stuff And I get a lot of questions about like, why are things this way? Why are things perceived that way? And I kind of just wanted to answer a few of them from my perspective. If you guys have Giannis trade questions, by all means, I am very happy to answer some of them at the very least. So one of them that I've seen is when people create these offers for Giannis, why are they so often very similar to the deal that the Orlando Magic did for Desmond Bane, right? Where it was like 4 first-round picks, like a player, everything like that, right? And part of the reason for that is that there is just a maximum in terms of picks that most teams can trade, right? Like, realistically, because of the Stepien rule, you only have 4 first-round picks that you're able to trade if you are neutral on your picks, right? So when people see, oh, Desmond Bane got moved for 4 first-round picks, and people are talking about Giannis getting moved for the 4 first-round picks from the Golden State Warriors or whatever. Well, A, those picks are probably going to be pretty valuable near the end of that, near the tail end of that. But B, it's just that there's like kind of a cap. Now, there are teams that have more than 4 first-round picks that can be traded. Those teams have to come to the table, though. Utah is one of them. Utah has no reason to do a Giannis deal. Oklahoma City is one of them. I don't think Oklahoma City is going to come to the table for a Giannis deal. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't see that happening right now. Houston, I think, has a couple of extra picks. Like, maybe Houston could do it, but it'd just be really hard to do right now, I think. But just because there are those artificial caps on whether or not on being able to trade 4 picks, I think that is why sometimes offers look quite similar to the Bane thing, when the reality is that, like, Giannis is going to get more than Bane. It's going to be closer than people think, though, because Bane was under contract for a little bit longer. He fits everywhere. Giannis is an unbelievable player. He's like one of the best players in the world, but it just is like slightly more complicated fitting him into a scheme mid-season. And I think that that's also worth noting in terms of Giannis.
I was thinking about this because we've mentioned this a couple times that Giannis, the fit or the scheme or whatever, I think it's just the word I think that's important to use, or that I would use, I don't want to force this on anybody else, is it's just very specific. The roster you build around Giannis, I think, needs to be very specific. I'm not saying you have to have a stretch big to play with him, but that is what we've seen for the majority of Giannis's career. So I always side eye a little bit if we're talking about trading him to a team that doesn't have that. You want to have real floor spacing around him. I also wonder if you trade him and he plays with a super, super high usage player on the perimeter, how does that look in terms of them sharing that usage? And so I think all of these stars have a little bit in their own right, some a little more, some a little less, but I do think Giannis, I'm not saying he couldn't work with a different roster construction, but based off what we've seen, does have somewhat of a specific roster construction that seems to fit best with him and work best around him.
Okay. This one refers to teams that are fans that think the Bucks will continue to try to buy to try to convince Giannis in the summer to stay, right? And again, like I said on the last show, I think that's like a totally reasonable choice by and large for the Bucks to do that. If they want to try and call the bluff, fine. I do think that if I was the Bucks, I'd be asking him for if he's going to sign the extension right now, but I understand at least like a little bit of why they would consider this. Why do the Bucks seem to need to add guys like Ryan Rollins to deals for other players when a lot of other teams are just able to add like some of their worst players or some of the, expiring deals and everything like that? Like people that may not be as up on the salary cap and everything like that, which there are different ways to consume basketball. Like I'm all for it. The reason why is because to make the money work on any star player, basically, they have to attach Kyle Kuzma and or Bobby Portis. Sometimes it's like, Kevin Porter Jr., whoever. The Bucks basically have like no expiring salary right now is the problem. Meaning, if you're the Memphis Grizzlies and you're looking at John Morant, I think about this specifically with John Morant, right? Like, why would the Bucks need to add Ryan Rollins to a deal for John Morant when other teams might just be able to do, expiring salary or whatever, like bad players? Well, the reason for that is because those other teams have the expiring salary to be able to just offer Memphis. For instance, if the Grizzlies or if the Clippers want John Morant, they can just offer John Collins and Bogdan Bogdanovic in like a second round pick and be done. You know what I mean? The Miami Heat, theoretically, given that we're a little bit confused on the Rozier thing, can just offer Rozier and Simone Fontecchio, and that makes the money work. And like maybe they would have to throw in like a Pele Larson, or maybe it's like a couple of other second round picks, right? Like they have mechanisms to make it advantageous for the Grizzlies by giving them salary flexibility moving forward. In the Bucks case, they don't have that mechanism. And on top of it, AJ Green, because he signed his extension, is not trade eligible right now, which means that Rollins is really the only asset on the roster, I would argue, that allows them to overcome the deficit that they are going into by moving contracts in Kyle Kuzma particularly, but like to some extent for Memphis, for instance. Like I don't think Bobby Portis would be like wildly exciting for Memphis to be able to overcome that. So because their books have like no sense of being clean here moving forward, that's why they have to add a little bit more in terms of like actual value, because what they're sending out is actually less valuable than just like expiring contracts. And to up the value to make it like above neutral and above what teams can offer, they do have to kind of add somebody like Rollins, who I wouldn't be moving Rollins if I was Milwaukee. I think that dude's awesome, but I did at least want to bring that up.
And that's why whenever we did like the Toronto Raptors trade, they had to add picks, right? Like, because it was an Emmanuel Quickly deal that really extends out even beyond what you're talking about. The only other thing I have here is if I'm the Bucks and I'm looking to do something with Giannis long-term, I'm not trading for anybody that's making my team better for the rest of this season. Again, and maybe you're going to get to this, Bucks fans know this, but I think it's just kind of coming to light more for the broader fan base of the NBA. The Bucks do have a first round pick this year that could be as high as the number 2 pick, depending on how things went in the lottery. Now, obviously it could be lower than that, but they get the lesser of theirs and the Pelicans. So whichever one of those finishes higher in the lottery would go to Atlanta because of that trade. And then whichever way it plays out, right? If the Bucks jumps all the way up to number 1, Atlanta would get that, and then Milwaukee would get the New Orleans pick that ends up at 3 or 4 or whatever. So because of that, I would not be looking to do anything for the rest of this season. If I'm the Bucks and I'm keeping Giannis, I'm going to Giannis and being like, hey, we're setting ourselves up for a very high pick this summer that we can either add to you or add into trades. I think I heard the other day they could trade up to 3 first-round picks once we get to the summer, and that could be a very
including
valuable,
this year's. That would include this year's, one. But yes.
Yeah. So like that would be my pitch to Giannis is, hey, we're not doing anything right now. We're going to set this up to we could have some of the best trade draft pick capital on the market this offseason to bring in more talent and dig into this thing even deeper with you.
Well, and that leads directly into this next one here, which is just perfect that somebody asked it. So I'll give this person the props. Is it just not better for the Bucks to wait until the offseason? I think it's like a real game of chicken, to be honest, where I can see there being teams that want Giannis for this playoff run and would want to acquire him, or like Milwaukee or Golden State would want to do this now, right? And maybe they are offering all of their pick capital right now in a way that they might not in the future, right? You have to assess what are teams going to offer now versus what are teams going to offer in the future. I've seen people make the case that you will have more certainty on what draft capital is out there. Like, because the lottery will have happened, you will know what money is out there. So I just kind of want to run through this because I think this argument doesn't really hold water, if I'm being honest. Sacramento is currently slated at number 1. I don't think they're going to be in on this. Atlanta is currently slated at number 2 via the New Orleans pick. I don't think Atlanta is going to do a Giannis deal. And I get that that's like kind of not a popular opinion or like I don't think they're all that close to competing right now. And I don't think they're going to do Giannis as opposed to like, hey, let's bring in the number 2 overall pick that fits better with our age curve and timeline. We have all this flexibility this summer to go get free agents. I actually think that's just a better pathway for them. Number 3 is Washington. I don't think they're doing this. Number 4 is Indiana. I guess if they wanted to do Siakam and picks, like theoretically, sure, but I don't really see that as happening. Number 5 is Brooklyn. If Brooklyn was to jump to number 1 and wanted to do Giannis for like number 1 overall pick, maybe, but I don't know that that's a huge win. Utah isn't doing this. Memphis isn't doing this. Milwaukee is there at 8. I don't think Dallas is doing this. And to do so, you'd have to take on the Anthony Davis deal. And like, that doesn't seem all that attractive. I don't think Charlotte is doing this. I don't think Oklahoma City is doing this with the Clippers pick right now. Maybe you can make a case for Portland. And like, I don't think San Antonio is going down the road of Giannis, and I don't think Chicago will do this either. So like, there are really only 2 teams, Portland and Brooklyn, where I think that this argument comes into play. And that isn't a reason to me to not do a deal now if you think there's a real deal out there that you want to do. So
yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the other aspect of that is there's just more trades available or more draft picks available in the offseason. People get more once we get past the draft. They get open to more because you can avoid the stepping rule a little bit more. But in general, I agree with you that I don't think you should be afraid of what you miss out in the offseason if you're getting the offer that you like right now.
Yeah. The other, kind of piece of this to me is I think it's totally reasonable for them to wait until the offseason. I want to be like very clear about that. The other thing is, someone brought up that the picks will become like there will be more picks out into the future.
That's what I was alluding to. That's what I was trying to say. Yes.
Yes, that is true. But like, I don't know how much John Horst is going to value. And this is why, like, I'm ultimately questioning the Warriors pick. And like, this is why I said on the Monday or the Friday show, rather, I would need to know how much it's John Horst making the decision versus ownership, because if it's John Horst making the decision, I don't really care that there are 33 picks involved. I'm not the one that's making that pick in all likelihood. Like, I want something that I can turn pretty quickly. So I don't know. The last things that like I kind of wanted to bring up here is I think waiting until the offseason is totally reasonable. You would be able to get more Miami picks. The most recent like interesting idea that I've heard, not from like, I've been like trying to come up with ideas basically. So I haven't heard this, but like the most interesting plan of attack, if I was Miami here, is to get back their pick from Charlotte. Maybe not even get it back, but like in some way, shape, or form, make it so that it just goes in 2028, right? Incentivize Charlotte to do 2028. If I was Charlotte, I'm kind of interested in that because the 2027 draft is not all that exciting. So I'm probably okay with that. And if you do it so that that pick is just automatically 2028, it's an unprotected 2028 first round pick at that point. The Heat can then trade their 2026, 2030, and 2032 first round picks right now. And then maybe you can go out and you can move Wiggins for another pick, right? So you can go get 4 first round picks, and then you can add all of your young guys. add, Kalel Ware, Hawkes, maybe they want Hero. Like, I don't know what all they're going to desire in a deal. I think that is probably a pretty close offer. And that is way more than the Desmond Bane deal, because you're getting your 4 first-round picks that Bane got on top of Ware, on top of like Yakashonis, on top of maybe it's Hawkes or something. Like, that's actually quite a bit more value than, for instance, like the Bane deal, right? Maybe you even get Hero in that deal, right? Like, or maybe it's Hero and 2 of those young guys. Like, maybe it's Hero and all 3 of them. Like, I don't know what Miami is willing to do this. But if I was Miami, I'd be talking to Charlotte about trying to incentivize them to make that just an unprotected 2028 first round pick, because it cleans up everything for Miami at that point.
Yeah, just you avoid the steppy and stuff and open up and unlock some of those picks. I think I left last episode saying that my guess was Miami would be where he landed if he gets moved at the deadline. And I still feel like that's what feels the best, especially if we're not going to say Golden State. So I think that's still where I'm at right now. I'm really interested to see. I was kind of surprised we saw a couple things move, but I don't know that it involved teams that would be in on Giannis or involved as third teams in some of these scenarios we've brought up. So obviously those were kind of, because it seems like maybe the Giannis situation could be holding up a little bit of the trade market because teams don't want to use their exception or use this salary or that salary whenever all of a sudden they could be the third or fourth team or whatever and get involved in that deal.
The only reason that I think I can make the case that this would happen now versus the offseason is that if you get to the offseason, there is a perception that there will be a wider market. Like, maybe the Knicks can get involved, maybe other teams can get involved. If I'm Milwaukee, I'm not moving Giannis unless I have like the offer. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not doing it unless it's just I have what I need right now. And I'm not playing around. I'm not messing around. Like, this is it. If somebody offers that, I have no problem with them doing it now. If somebody doesn't offer it, sure. Zach asks, does Giannis's leverage make a difference in the offseason versus now? I think yes. I think that he would be able to push a little bit more aggressively by saying, I will only sign an extension with X team if you trade for me. Will he do that? I think that would really hinder his reputation in Milwaukee in a way that he has tried to avoid to this point. But I don't know that he won't do it. Like, if I was him, I'd be threatening that for sure. So I think that the leverage can change this summer to where I would be looking at this as if we get the offer we want, pulling the trigger now is not the worst idea.
I also do want to bring up the extension one more time in terms of if Giannis gets traded now, he can still sign that extension in October before he steps on the floor for an NBA game next season. If he doesn't and he gets traded in the offseason, that pushes it 6 months after the trade, which means he could be, half of an NBA season or whatever before he's able to sign that extension. That extension is for $280 million. And I realize it may only be 20 games or 30 games or whatever, but we're talking about an early 30s guy with, dealing with the calf thing right now. I'm just saying, all of a sudden you get injured 20 games into next season and you haven't signed that extension yet. It could change the calculation of that. So if I'm Giannis, there is a little bit of, I want to be on the team I'm going to be on so I can sign that extension in October.
Yep. I think that's where we can kind of end this with Giannis. We'll see. It's interesting at the very least that we are in a bit of a holding pattern with Giannis for now. Like, we'll see where it lands. It feels tricky to me. It feels very tricky.
Yep.
Okay. Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, Motor City Hoops Substack. If your favorite team is playing the Pistons, like the Brooklyn Nets here on Sunday afternoon, evening, I will have notes on them as well after I get the game watched. Obviously, the Game Theory Substack, where I can shout that out a little bit more because I've upped my contributions here recently with some 2026 NBA draft video breakdowns, including one on Darius Acuff coming up, I believe, on Tuesday morning after Sam runs his AJ DeBonsa and Darren Peterson's. And of course, we have the NBA draft show over there as well. That's always a really good time, keeping you guys up on all of that. Otherwise, right here, Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecenie.
GameTheorySamV.substack.com. It is the best place to get NBA draft coverage. It is the best place for you to support the show. We appreciate everybody that supports the show and that hangs out here. Thank you all for being here. It is immensely gratifying that you guys came and hung out. We do got to shout out one final sponsor while we're here. We got to shout out our good friends over at Mizzen Main. Imagine this, a crisp, comfortable white dress shirt that you can wear every day of the week without constant washes or endless trips to the dry cleaner. That's exactly what Mizzen Main is going to deliver every single time. They make classic menswear with performance fabrics, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel great. Mizzen Main actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and since then, they have perfected it with modern fabrics. When you put their clothes on, you feel that difference instantly. It's professional style that's actually comfortable, whether you're in the office, on the road, or even out on the golf course. That tends to be where I will wear my Mizzen Main gear. Right now, Mizzen Main is offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com. Promo code GAME20. That's MIZZEN and Main, MAIN.com. Promo code GAME20 for 20% off. Mizzenandmain.com. Promo code GAME20. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen Main stores in select states. Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. We will be back on trade deadline day on Thursday. We will go live eventually.
Or before, if there is a big move that we need to go live for.
Maybe Giannis gets moved and we'll go live immediately, but we'll find out. Okay. Thank you all for being here. Until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.